Thus far, it's been a little while since we've talked about the Outer Worlds on this channel. I've been kind of patiently waiting for some of the updates to ship out for us to potentially get news around a sequel or even just DLC or mod support. Leading up to the Game Awards, I was really expecting a trailer. If you guys don't remember, the Game Awards 2018 saw the reveal trailer of the Outer Worlds. And of course, that ended up being a massive success. There was immediately a ton of hype for that game. And then with the eventual release being as successful as it was, I and many others were predicting we would hear more last night. Now, unfortunately, the Game Wars started and finished, and we didn't hear a ton around that. Although, earlier today, just a little over an hour ago, when I'm recording this video, Obsidian shared that they in fact do have plans for DLC as well as an overall special thank you. So in this video, we're going to talk about that as well as where they could potentially go with this DLC. If you enjoy the content or just want to stay up to date with the Outer Worlds, you can leave a like or subscribe. I actually have a totally separate video going over the game tomorrow. It just received a new update. But either way, earlier today we saw on the official Obsidian forums, specifically in the Outer Worlds subforum, a post titled "A Special Thank You from Obsidian." And actually, just as an aside, this is oftentimes where they share news around this game. So if you do want to keep up to date with the latest and greatest, it would be a good idea to keep an eye on this forum. They start this off by saying, "We want to take this opportunity to thank the incredible team behind the Outer Worlds. It is because of their hard work and dedication to this project that received the best narrative, best performance, specifically Ashley Birch, who did play Parvati in the Outer Worlds, best RPG, and Game of the Year nominations at the Game Awards." They go on to thank everyone who voted for them and gave support to the game, but also touch on how the reception to the Outer Worlds has been unbelievable to see, and even just being nominated means a lot. However, the journey isn't over yet, as we are excited to announce that we'll be expanding the story through DLC next year. Details will be made available at a later date. And then at the end of this, they actually share a message from the game directors of the Outer Worlds. Leonard Boyarsky does say, "We just wanted to personally thank our team for doing a wonderful job and our fans for their tremendous support. And Tim would like to say what an honor it was to work with me." And then from Tim Kane, "Whatever, Leonard, now that we finished, I expect that certain photographs will be destroyed as per our agreement." I feel like my delivery kind of took away the humor of that, but it definitely is a fun little comment. So obviously, as exciting as this news is, it is a little anticlimactic. We don't have a screenshot, we don't actually have any details to go off of, and to keep things simple, those are the facts. That's exactly what we know about the Outer Worlds DLC and as far as when it's going to come. Some point in 2020, obviously early 2020 is ideal. Although, with that in mind, there definitely is quite a bit of room for speculation and a lot of easy or obvious locations they could take this. Firstly, I mean that in just a quite literal way. While playing the Outer Worlds, it almost immediately became obvious how easy it would be to create DLC stories for this game, simply because you could just add in a new planet. A slight extension of the map or just some quest where you have to get a new nav key and then access to a totally new port. I mean, technically, they don't even have to add in entire new planets. They could just add in new landing spaces on existing ones. And for each of those, you have that contained world space that will have a variety of quests taking you to different locations within that world, but also potentially even to other planets. This, of course, seems like the easy and obvious choice. I have to imagine that a new location, and even more specifically, a new planet, will be a staple of this. A big question I have around this DLC is its size. Of course, the Outer Worlds is a AA game. Even just playing it, you could tell it's not as large as something like Fallout New Vegas, which a lot of people compare it to. Although, since then, Obsidian, of course, has been bought out by Microsoft. They do have quite a considerable and significant financial backing. Microsoft themselves have expressed interest in more of the Outer Worlds content, and all reports seem to point towards the fact that the game itself was a critical and financial success. As such, I do wonder how large these DLCs will be. Will it be a DLC that is similar in size to a AAA experience, or will it be a smaller scale AA size DLC at a AAA price? Of course, right now we don't have the answers to that question, but I feel like it is a valid question. Immediately, I started to think about how large some of the New Vegas DLCs were, but maybe that's not the right comparison. Maybe it is going to be a bit smaller than that, as was the base game of the Outer Worlds. So then now getting a little bit more concrete as to where exactly they could take this from a story perspective. This will be some minor spoilers, so if you haven't played or beat this game and you care about spoilers, I would not watch this part of the video. You could just subscribe, then click off. Of course, one of the obvious choices is Earth. Not necessarily going to Earth, of course that is an option, but at the end of the Outer Worlds, there is this big mystery as to what happened to Earth, and considering we're all humans that actually live on Earth, we have this innate investment of it, so it immediately would draw your interest in from a DLC perspective. Something is happening there. It seems like like they deliberately set that up as a plot point for future stories from the Outer Worlds. Although, I do wonder if something like tackling the problem on Earth, or potentially even giving us the opportunity to travel to Earth, could be a little bit outside the scope of a DLC and more focusing around a sequel. The other very obvious choice is some of the other planets you could find around the map of the Outer Worlds. Olympus and Eridanos are described as gas giants and mostly uninhabitable, so I would rule them mostly out, but separately there are two other planets that are a bit more interesting. Typhon, for one, is an ice planet. Now that obviously would give it a pretty unique and interesting look and style, but that could be really nice with a DLC, or Hephaestus, which is the closest planet to the sun. As of right now, this is just controlled by the Hephaestus Mining Company. They were the first to arrive there and actually set up a colony, and as such claimed it for themselves. And this is the one that seemingly has the most backstory and the most potential to actually be a new planet we get to explore. But overall, there's definitely a lot of ways they can take this, a lot of different directions they could go with DLC for the Outer Worlds. Personally, I'm quite excited for this. I'm excited to hear more details around it. I again think in probably Q1 of 2020 we'll at the very least get an info dump. But until then, as always, again, I thank you for watching. Hopefully you found this video informative, and again, don't forget, tomorrow I will have another video going over some new and recent happenings with the Outer Worlds.